Nahaganesinga Zanavechu or Zan David, actually. We're not in the morning, we're in the evening. We're still getting used to this. Welcome, everyone, to Rising Warriors Rachael Kulei. And we are continuing our segment that we've been doing. And let's see, what was the last one was Little Elders.
Generosity. Little Elders.
Little Elders, but we covered within the generosity. And then beforehand was sacred roles and bearing children and honoring womanhood. And today we are doing our next segment on Indigenous spirituality. So welcome back, Mom, Rochelle, and go ahead and take it away.
Oh, thank you. So, so we want to work in the segments of when we, to consider when we raise children or we're helping others raise children, because, we're aunties and friends and moms to others. And so I want to talk about spirituality and the goal that is, the goal in Indigenous spirituality, like it encompasses the energies that move in us, through us, and around us. And that power comes from conversing with the supernatural in and out of this realm. So it begins at birth. So what I want to talk about first is that is birth and raising those little ones and the toddlers. And, traditionally we had the cradle board, right? And I remember as a young mom, I didn't understand the cradle board and its purpose. And that cradle board is to teach the baby to suppress the worldly needs. In other words, to keep it from being secular in thinking that materialism is more important. So what it does is teaches the baby to be, what's the word? Like in control.
Grandma always said strong backbone.
Yeah, you get a strong backbone, but it keeps you from wandering, and you learn to have control, in all your desires of the natural man. It keeps you from to wander off in things that aren't as important. So that's one of the things is to make sure nurturing your sensories and heightening them, your sensories. And so like if they're in the cradle board and you put them in the tree or under the tree while you're working and gathering, then the baby is aware of the supernatural because it's quiet, right? When it's quiet and nature provides that spirituality, that it provides an opportunity to pay attention and to listen to the smallest things. I get some water. And so then that's where the infant starts to see little animals, and they start to see insects and butterflies, and the wind talks to them. So they become very familiar with the supernatural. My throat is really itchy today.
Allergies. There's a lot of pollen flying around.
Well, I was working outside all day pulling weeds, and I think that's where it's coming from. But so right there, you have that fundamental upbringing. Just in those few short months and then into the infancy to 3 years old. And so you're learning and heightening your sensories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I began to think of why is that happening now? And again, we know about historical trauma. And the thing is how can we be aware spiritually and have those sensories heightened and grow through those spiritual gifts that we are given? And when we go through trauma, it's a little difficult because what happens is, if I were to look at your body in a microscope and it was zoomed in, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would be nothing but energy. And you would be filled with atoms, and you are energy. And then what happens is, in that energy, when we have negative experiences, that energy is stored somewhere in the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we keep filling these our bodies with these energies and negative energies and experiences, or false experiences, or I don't mean false experience, I mean false ideas that have been placed upon us as babies and children, we become more filled with those negative energies and those atoms, which then shuts our eyes down, closes the veil, shuts everything down, where we aren't able to have access as clearly as if it was cultivated in our lives as a little one. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it still can happen, but I'm just saying, when you think about those energies, then what happens to our spirituality? It kind of just closes that veil, and and the I guess the sense of that fundamental stage that we should have had as a child. And then so what happens is, then we can find it again. There's always hope. But I'm just saying is that is so important to help that child and raising them. So in the traditional way, starting in that good way. And why was our eyes open, and why we were able to see? The old ones said that long time ago, before the European settlers came, our eyes were wide open. We could hear, and we could understand the birds, the trees, the plants. They spoke loud. We were open to the supernatural, mystical powers that were roaming in and out of our planets, the solar system. And we were familiar with that, and we could hear things, and we were very open. But then when the Europeans came, the settlers came, and then there came trauma, then guess what? We're filled with those negative atoms, right? The negative energies. And that's what shuts us down, because now we hadn't an idea what that meant, but it created an emotion of shame. Shame is like the lowest vibration you could ever have. And that's what those emotions were portrayed upon us from those settlers. And so then we didn't see anymore. There were some who were protected, of course, but a lot of us didn't have that opportunity, and they didn't. Through trauma, that's when we shut down, especially in boarding schools, when that was the most, fragile time. And that was the time we were teaching the children. The adults were teaching, and they were growing and learning their spiritual gifts. And then once you're 3, 4 years old, or 5, your gifts are begun to be exposed, and they immediately what their gifts are. And you would have had an elder who you would have taken that your child to, and you would have them like understudy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would have them understudy, and you would, little one would go with the, an herbalist or a medicine woman or art or, hunting. But there was all these gifts that we those little ones had, and they knew right away what those gifts were. And so what I want to think if we want to go back to traditional ways and try, and also there's more information for us when we're spiritually awakened, that we could hear the old ones, the ancient ones speaking to us and coming to us. The more we open up and hear our ancestors, and they begin to teach us. And so with that, when you're raising those little ones, and this is what we could do, put them back in their cradle boards, tighten them up. And it makes them feel secure too, because they were in the womb for so long, and so that's where they're safe. So the cradle board also creates security and safety. And that's what a child baby needs. And then as they get older, I remember in Sweat Lodge, there was this 3-year-old that came into the Sweat Lodge. I was so impressed, and had a 5-year-old. So there was a 3 and 5-year-old. The dad brought his little girls, and they stayed in there for one whole session, and then the doors were open and they were able to go out. But they didn't complain. They weren't whining, and they just laid there, and then they went out. And so introducing them to ceremonies and, Sweat Lodge, taking them to, I've seen lots of little kids at the bear ceremonies that we go to. And there was a little, I think it was like 8, maybe not even that, maybe 6. The little boy that we had, his parents knew, and his grandfather knew he had the medicine of the bear. Mm-hmm. And he had his little cub with him and the regalia on, and he didn't get to go out and help the men, the bears, but they sat him right there, like in the middle. And so that people go around, they sat him right there to watch, so that he'd learn. And then, but when it came to the children, and it was a prayer for just the children, then he got to be the leader of that, for the children. Mm-hmm. And it was the most beautiful thing I saw and witnessed, watching this little boy being groomed into his gifts. So, that's one of the ways that we need to help our children, is introduce them to those ceremonies. And if you don't know, and you're maybe come from a city, then get a hold of, there's always, like in Portland, there's a great big community, a Native community. There you will find someone. And once you get connected, look around the tribes around you, so that you can get connected with the community, or go back home. But then there's children that were adopted. So there's adults who were adopted who didn't get to have that opportunity. And so for them, connect again. There's always someone from the community that you could connect with and find. Even if you go onto powwow.com and email them, they'll send someone to you. Oh, I know someone there. Everybody knows someone throughout the United States and Canada or other Indigenous areas. So there's always someone to connect you with. So that's the important part of, being to exemplify that, right? Those ceremonies, take them to those places to help them. And then, but if you don't have access at that moment, then create your own. I would take all my nieces, to the forest and we go on hikes. And when you were younger and when you were struggling, when all of you struggled, I would say, we're getting in the car, we're walking, we're taking off and going for a drive. And I'd take you up in the mountains where there's stream and water. And remember, I would sit you there and say, you need to be alone. And I knew that if you could just be in nature and if you could just stay still, you would hear. And then that's because there's too much noise around here. The closer you get into the city, there's too much noise and you can't hear. So when you go up in the mountains and you're part of the nature, and that you become closer to Creator and Mother Earth, and you're just closer, and that you can settle down for a moment and relax and settle and hear the spirit. So that's another way. If you don't have access, go to the mountains. If you can't do it right away, take off your shoes and socks and get outside and walk in the grass, touch a tree. It will help you settle down and to stay in silence. And also, lots of families, they go out and get up 5 a.m. when the sun comes up and go out, and the first thing they do is they pour water onto the ground and give gratitude and thanks for the water, and then they say their prayers in the morning. So those are little things that we can do to help raise the awareness and grow to grow and be more open to hearing the spirits, so that we can hear and see and converse with the sentient beings. So that's another way of connecting. For me, when you were young and the rest of your siblings, I wanted to teach you about prayer, and I wanted you to be more aware of prayer and your own power and how to connect with Creator. Remember, there was a time that you wanted to go to a powwow with Grandma, and I don't know why, but I had the strongest feeling that you shouldn't go to the powwow, and I didn't feel good about it, and I just heard strongly she can't go to the powwow, and you really wanted to go. Mm-hmm. But so I went to you and I said, Rachel, I don't have a good feeling about you going to this powwow. And you were really upset because you had planned on this for a couple of weeks. You knew you were going to go with Grandma. And I said, I don't feel good about it. But what I need you to do, I need you to go and pray about this. I need you to find out for yourself that this is not, I need you to have the same feeling I have. I need you to figure that out for yourself. And even I was like hoping that you would hear, because it could have been that you said, well, no, I didn't hear that, so I guess I'm going to go. But I was trying to figure out, am I going to let her go? What am I going to do if she says she's okay with it, even though she knows it's not okay? And I wasn't sure what you were going to do. So I just went and prayed and said, please testify to her what I heard, if I'm right. Well, I knew I was, because I'm so used to that. I knew this wasn't right, but I was trying to figure out how you were going to figure this out. So maybe you could tell about your perspective, because of when I had to tell you that you couldn't go.
I still remember as if it was yesterday. So I remember you telling me and being so upset because I wanted to go dance so bad and go see the family and go see, it was more about Uncle Larry and going to get to sit around the drum and dance. But I remember you telling me that it wasn't safe to go, and I was just so, right when you told me that um it wasn't safe to go, I already knew. In Now looking back, I already knew. I just got this like gut feeling in my stomach. It's like I had that feeling. It was like, oh, this pit in my stomach, but I still was like, no, I want to go. I'm going. I'm gonna go dance. And I think I was only maybe 5 or 6, maybe just turned
I think
6,
you were 5.
somewhere in there.
Somewhere. Yeah.
And I just, you were like, no, you gotta go. And I was like, nope, I'm going. I'm gonna, like, somehow, like, grandma's gonna tell mom, like, I get to go. And
Oh, you're
I'm
going to
like, I
play
was
that.
already plotting, grandma's gonna, play against you, and grandma says what, over you. So grandma was gonna tell me yes. But then you came out and you said, no, Rachel, I really need you to go in the room, and I want you to go get on your knees, and I want you to go pray. And I want you to pray and know for yourself that it's not safe for you to go. And you're like, it's not that I don't want you to go. I want you to go. I just don't feel safe. And I don't have a good feeling about this. And that's when I finally, the rebel in me just was kind of like, okay. And I went in there and I sat down, and I didn't even really start to pray. I had a vision. All of a sudden, I saw myself at the powwow, and I was walking with grandma, and we had just gotten a bunch of food. And so my hands were carrying stuff, and her hands were all filled, because you got to get stuff for the family, and for the drummers. I think she was getting stuff for uncle and all the uncles for drumming in the drum circle, because her arms were full, and I was carrying stuff, and we were trying to hurry. And all of a sudden, this guy just came, and he grabbed and he picked me up, and he started running. And before grandma could do anything, I was already gone. And I saw that I never came back home. You guys were never going to find me. And that's when I came back, and I was just in tears, and I was like, okay, I can't go. I don't want to get stolen. So I ended up not going. And I still remember grandma coming back and telling me, she goes, I'm really glad you listened, and you listened to spirit, and you listened to creator, and you listened to your mom, because there was a man that was going around stealing little children at the powwow. And they were just missing like that. Nobody was paying attention to the kids playing outside of the powwow, and a guy was just going around and just swooping children and taking them, and I would have been one of them. And so it was then at a little age that I really, really understood listening to spirit, even if other people don't understand. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to Eric, and I was like, I don't remember what we were talking about, but we were talking about reason, and always having reason for doing something. Because you always taught me as a little kid, when you're doing something, think about it before you do it, and you have reason for what you're doing. Don't just do it just to do it. And I remember I think it was 9th grade in high school, in dance team. They actually awarded, I don't know if you know this, but they actually gave me an award for person with most excuses.
No, you didn't share that.
They gave me an award with person with most excuses, because I had a reason for everything. And they didn't understand. And I was thinking about it, and especially going into today's podcast, I was like, well, thinking about it, I'm like, well, a lot of the stuff they didn't understand, because it was spiritual reason. So they were just telling me that I was stupid and I didn't know what I was talking about, and they dismissed me, and they always said I had a reason for something. And so even through middle school or high school, no one understood that. No one, I felt so alone because nobody really, even those that maybe were religious, they didn't even understand spirituality and the connection of listening to spirit. And they, I was always dismissed throughout my whole life. I've been always the one odd man off in the corner. Rachel's woo woo, like she's somehow connected and knows things before it happens, or all the, insight, and, how does she know what my thoughts are? Well, it goes back to that teaching as a little child of being connected and being in tune and spiritually, because we've talked about this before, the cording, when we're all born into this world, we all have our own, like, it's like a silver cord, our own wormhole that connects us to the divine, to creator, to the heavens. So we all have our own, and we all leave in that. So when we leave this world, our spirit leaves in that, through that that wormhole. But when what you were talking about is, it's like that crown chakra and the third eye, if we close that off, then it's almost like we start putting this cap over the connection of our own wormhole connection to the divine and the creator, so that we can actually hear our own personal like the guidance and intuition and revelation, in a sense, right?
Yes.
And so, but like you were saying, we can still open that back up, because there's time when I was going through self-abuse and destruction because of being raped, that I tried to cut it off. Like I tried to put a cap on or something and keep like putting caps on so I didn't hear. But it was like, for me, it kind of almost seemed a little bit louder. But then at a point too, it also became quiet, and then I lost it, and then I felt even more alone. And so then that's when I was like, I have to get my butt back on the red road, on that path, because I felt lost. I felt disconnected. I had no purpose. I felt like I had no clarity and vision of where I was going. I didn't feel as safe as I did before, because I would hear, okay, don't go this way, don't go there, go right, go left, call this person, do this, stay home, wait another 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden I go and find out that I just would have, I timed things out, and I would have been in a car accident, or I would have, all these different things, or I just miss a huge storm that just went by, that I would have been stuck in this, a hailstorm, had I just not listened and just stay put. And I see that, because I battle with this too, is in the world where it's constant go, 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 go. But then at the same time, it's like, I have to constantly remind myself that the world isn't creator, and I don't have to answer to the world. I have to answer to creator and my ancestors. Am I, going to get in trouble for being 10 minutes to work? Let's say it's like, okay, if I'm going to be 10 minutes to work, or late to work, or am I going to be, and then, maybe I needed to call somebody, and that was maybe that veteran's life or death situation. But I needed to take that 10 minutes and talk to that veteran. And you know what? Yes, I'm, 10 minutes late to work, and I'm going to have to maybe deal with that, or dismiss that something happened, show up time to work, and then now I have to face another consequence from creator because I didn't answer that phone call. I didn't help that individual. I chose money and society and what the world wants me to do instead of what creator wants me to do.
Yes.
So I want to elaborate, or I know your mind's going.
There's so much, right?
I mean,
spirituality encompasses so much, and uh, but it takes practice, from that little one, as a little one, and then just listening and practicing and practicing. And the more you practice, the better you can hear. And the moment that, and how you can differentiate your, if something you hear in your mind, don't go, you shouldn't go. If you hear that and that's not your ordinary thought, it is a voice that our subconscious, our spirit knows so much more than what we consciously can hear. And so we need to listen to that. Don't doubt it. Just follow through. And the more you do it, the more you hear things. And the more we are protected. There's a lot of things that we could overcome or save ourselves if we just will listen. And then there's times we can't hear, right? So, so when you're raising children and helping children, we want to help them to be aware, get them into nature more often so that they can be aware and have their, hear and feel the wind, to just be silent. They don't have to be entertained all the time. They don't have to have this phone, which, I'm so grateful that I didn't have any of this stuff. I had to create we had to have an imagination. You guys, I didn't allow you to, I only said, okay, you get an hour or 2 hours the most to watch a show. Other than that, you need to be outside. You need to be out playing. You need to go in the trees. You need to just play and be creative. And so, there was a time that we watched several little girls before in the past, and I was so surprised because they were so used to technology and staying in the house, and so the technology was their babysitter pretty much. And then I said, when we were watching them, I said, why don't you go play outside? Because that's what I'm used to. You guys went outside. All of my nieces, everybody went outside. They knew what to do. And they, 5 minutes later, I went to check on them, and they're standing on the deck, just standing there. And then I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, we don't know what to do. What? There's trees you could be, playing in. I mean, you guys, everyone would, all my forks and spoons eventually disappeared, and, playing in the dirt, gathering,
digging,
making mud pies. And, that's what we need to do, is be a part of nature and get rid of this technology. I mean, limit yourself, have balance, right? Have balance in that. And another way of teaching children are storytellings. There's so many stories that you can learn to teach yourself, but to teach children about. And these stories have great lessons in them to help children understand and learn about their spirituality so that they can grow and be more aware. And then there's just so much that we have to exemplify that. And if we're trying to just figure that for ourselves, be honest with your children. Why, if you have a teenager is like, why are we all of a sudden doing this now? Because I want to be more aware because of what's happening in our society. We need to come together more. And I haven't taught you that, and I apologize, but this is where I am at now, and I see the importance of it. So you could start from any stage or from that little one, right? And helping them. And then when they get certain age, like I knew I would pray, because spirituality for me is important in that I don't know you. I didn't know how to really be a mom in a way that I wouldn't harm you. And I needed to have Creator by me all the time because I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to do. And that is, that is so important. And it has saved me. It has helped me have a clearer perspective of what I need to do. And there were times that I wanted to just give up because it was so hard sometimes. And I would pray and say, Creator, I don't know what to do. Dhamma Appa, help me. I am struggling and I don't know what to do. And I need to see these children in your eyes and help me to understand them in that way. And every time the answer is always love them. Love them that they may know me through your walk. And when they're ready, they will know me and know they're deserving because you showed them that you loved them. And that is the way all I know. And our dreams, the more you listen and the more you dream, that's something that we have a gift of. Indigenous people have this gift, and I don't know, it comes easier to all of us. It seems that everyone that I've known of Indigenous, of many cultures, it comes easier to them than it does a non-Indigenous person. And it's maybe because we have just different gifts and how we're wired. And so what we see things, we have revelations, we have dreams, we have visions, there's so many gifts that we cultivate and so that we embrace too. And so the important thing is that we hear those things. And, like I said, it's being open and hearing, and don't doubt yourself. When you hear something, don't doubt it. Especially when it's not something you would say to yourself. Like, where did that come from?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't normally talk like that to ourselves. So the more you listen to that, then you're like, oh, and then there comes this beautiful feeling. Like for me, I get, this is funny, but for me, I get really warm and I get hot in my back and I just feel like the presence, right, of ancestors. I feel presence. And that's how I know. So then you just listen and pay attention to that. The more you do that, the better you get. And then you can just, what am I doing today? I'm going to turn left. Am I going to turn right? And I just want to share a little story because when you were going through a difficult time as a young, through your trauma as a teenager, I had this dream and we were driving and it was dark and raining and I could not see. And I knew that I was going to go into an intersection and I didn't know what to do. And I said, I couldn't see. And I prayed and I said, I don't know what to do. I need us to be protected. I need to be safe. I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden I saw the Creator's hand come down in front of me. And I grabbed onto his hand and I looked at you and I said, Rachel, grab his hand. And you were kind of scared of grabbing his hand. I go, we have to grab his hand. We have to trust. And so I grabbed his hand and then I looked in the mirror and I'm going to share some sacred things because I mean a lot, but I need to testify of that. But I did see Jesus Christ behind me. And then I held our Creator's hand. And he said, trust me, and I would direct you in all that you need to do to help you, Rachel. And I said, okay. And so we sat there and he said, don't move, because it was just like, I couldn't see any cars, anything. And I held onto his hand, and I heard him say, okay, now you go. And I'm really scared. I don't want to go because I have no idea if there's any cars crossing. But I go anyway. I drive, and I'm really scared, but he's like, don't, just hold on, just do exactly what I say. And I did it. And then he would say, okay, now stop here. And it's pouring, like I cannot see. And he'd say, stop here. And then I'd stop and wait. And then he'd say, okay, move again. And then I would drive and keep, and he directed me all the way, but I woke up in the middle of that, so I didn't see the end result, but that helped me to understand you. It helped me to just slow down and wait and be patient. Sometimes we're not patient enough. We want things to happen quick, and we're not patient if we just stay still until we're directed. And sometimes we jump the gun, and then we ruin the opportunities that he's trying. They're all working really hard trying to make things work, but we think nothing's happening. But I promise you, there's always movement. They're in their making. They're making things happen and setting things up for us. But if we jump the gun and go with our own ego, then we mess everything up. Then we blame Creator because it didn't work out the way we thought it was going to be. Instead of just saying, you hear, stay still. And then when there's new direction, then you move. And then you have to wait again until you're told to move again. So those are just the ways as little ones, helping, getting them to ceremonies, sweat lodges, but having them understand and have their own prayers, their own learning experiences, so that they develop their spirituality and understand that, and then start using their gifts. And then always, for me, I would find adults that I trusted, and then I would take you guys to them so that you learn from them, so that you grow. And then you could have many moms, many fathers. I didn't care. I'm like, I need more help. If you couldn't hear me, then someone I trust you could hear them. So, get a positive adults around those children that you trust and it feels right. Of course, I never left you. You have to understand that you can't just leave your children with anybody, but it takes time to develop these friendships, and then understanding and helping. And so we just had to be careful, and we could do so many things to help those babies. They're awake, and their eyes are wide open. They see. So we adults need to help them, because I think they're the ones that are going to make the changes for us. I think they're all ready. They know so much. And we need to believe them when they say they see spirits and they see things and they have a play friend. They're real. And if they don't like somebody and you're trying to force them and say, be nice, no, they know. They already know, I don't trust that person. So we have to trust them and helping them, so that they don't second doubt themselves when they get older. It just is, they just grow and they know. And they're the ones that are going to teach us. So that's my take at this moment. I'm sure there's going to be much more that will come to my mind, and I'll keep notes and we could discuss that another time.
Perfect.
So thank you.
Thank you, Us. That was beautiful. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. And
Is there any
hopefully,
questions or?
no.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions? You can type them real quick. Nope, it's just a sacred day. Thank you much for sharing.
And also remember, spirituality is an everyday experience. Waking up, breathing, fresh air, having gratitude. Thank you, I'm safe today. I woke up today. Thank you that I get to see the sun today. That's spirituality. Having that gratitude is spirituality. Everything we do is spirituality. It's just being. It's the way we walk and talk. That's laughter is spirituality. So don't just think of spirituality as religion. It is just a way of being. It's a way of living in a good way, and always being aware of our walk and what we do, and having reasons, like you said, Rachel. Thank you. Oh,
have reasons, and it's not stupid to have reasons. It's important. That's what they would tell me, it was stupid, but no,
yeah.
It's not. It's important. That way you have reason, you know what you're doing, and you're consciously aware of your walk.
Yes.
Love that. Thank you. Stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yes.
Have a good rest of your week.